Have you ever heard the saying, you can't trust anyone or don't trust anyone? Well, I've got a new one for you. You can't trust media or don't trust media. And look, that's been clear for a very long time now, at least for any honest and fair-minded American that consumes news, people like you. But the problem is, most Americans aren't like that. They have their own lives to worry about. Millions in this country today live paycheck to paycheck. They don't have time to worry about media bias or whether or not they're getting lied to when they sit and watch the news at night. They have to put food on the table. They have jobs and bills to pay, you see. Well, at least until the socialist utopia shows up when they can just eat ice cream and sit on the couch. But that's taking a bit longer than Bernie Sanders predicted, so we'll have to wait a bit longer. Meanwhile, the mainstream liberal, corporate, woke media, they already know that. And that's why they pepper the news cycle with all kinds of misleading and even dishonest headlines. And sometimes they just refuse to cover really important stories at all. And that's how you get stories like the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida, or how you implant the thought in people's minds that Russia hacked the 2016 election and got Donald Trump elected, or the narrative that President Biden is completely competent with no mental deficiencies, or remaining completely silent on one of the greatest stories of corruption this country has ever seen, involving that same completely cognizant, incredibly smart current president of the United States and his boy part of his crack staff, and I do mean crack staff, Hunter Biden. And when the media finally did have to admit the entire drug-fueled, prostitute-filled laptop of Hunter Biden was real, man, that had to hurt. But some, they've clung to that idea of that half-baked, drug-induced notion that somehow it was still linked to Russia. Well, our friends at Grabian have a little reminder for us that it wasn't Russia after all, but listen to this.
There's no evidence that Hunter Biden has done anything wrong.
There is no evidence of any wrongdoing between by Joe Biden, or by Hunter Biden.
There's no evidence that Joe Biden actually did anything wrong or did anything to sway things in Hunter Biden's favor. He's denied that his son ever lobbied him for anything.
There is nothing wrong that Vice President Biden did.
President Trump has falsely accused your son of doing something wrong while serving on a company board in Ukraine. I want to point out there's no evidence of wrongdoing by either one of you.
There is no evidence that anybody did anything illegal regarding the Bidens and Ukraine, and Joe Biden was carrying out U.S. policy.
President Trump wanted dirt on Joe and Hunter Biden. Trump's claims about wrongdoing here are unsubstantiated. We have looked, lots of outlets have looked.
Hunter Biden did nothing wrong. Vice President Biden did nothing wrong. And every single media outlet has said that there's no there to these allegations, lies, and smears.
PolitiFact found no evidence to support the idea that Joe Biden advocated with his son's interests in mind.
What there is no evidence here, there's no evidence that any of these people are journalists. There's no evidence that these are actual news outlets. There's no evidence that these people care anything about except looking good and going to the right parties. Right, Mr. Cuomo? Yeah, there was no evidence of the Hunter Biden laptop and there being a problem, except all the evidence on Hunter Biden's laptop, including pictures, videos, emails linking shady business deals to now President Joe Biden. Except for those massive piles of evidence, there wasn't any. You see how that works? But to cover that up, they said that very laptop, you know, the laptop that has the pictures of Hunter on it in ways that only he would have and nobody else would ever want to see. And those emails detailing foreign business deals, and I use that term lightly, involving the big guy. They said that wasn't even real. It was all made up by the Russians, you see. After all, they've made for a pretty good fall guy and a major dishonest distraction for years, haven't they? It's Russia. It's Russia. And now that even more Hunter Biden foreign business deals are coming to light and more naked pictures and videos that don't make me feel very well to think about, the media now maintains that while Hunter may have done something wrong, and I'm not talking about the naked part, there's no evidence President Biden did anything at all untoward. In fact, here's White House Chief of Staff Ron Klain saying that exact thing.
The Washington Post also reported this week on deals that Hunter Biden had with a Chinese energy company, paid $4.8 million to entities controlled by Hunter and the president's brother. Is the president confident his family didn't cross any ethical lines?
George, the president is confident that his family did the right thing. But again, I want to just be really clear. These are actions by Hunter and his brother. They're private matters. They don't involve the president, and they certainly are something that no one at the White House is involved in.
Well, some of it did involve his privates. That part's true. You've seen the video. I mean, what? You expected this guy to confess the truth? That Joe Biden is compromised in more ways than one, and so is his boy? Come on. So the White House says the president had no knowledge of any of Hunter's business dealings. Of course, that's what they said. And the president certainly would never have been involved in any of them had he known. But thankfully, the New York Post put together a list of several times Joe Biden played a role in Hunter's business dealings. I'll read just a few of them for you today. Hopefully Twitter doesn't ban the Post for publishing so-called misinformation again when it is the God's honest truth. So here's number one on their list. The latest example emerged Wednesday when it was revealed that Hunter Biden got his dad to write a recommendation letter to Brown University for the son of a very powerful Chinese business associate, Jonathan Lee. Jonathan, Hunter asked me to send you a copy of the recommendation letter that he asked his father to write on behalf of Christopher for Brown University. Hunter Biden's then business partner, Eric Sherwin, wrote to Lee on February 18, 2017, in an email first revealed by Fox News. Now, do you think the president just writes college recommendations without knowing who they're for, or what he'd be getting in return, or why he's doing it? MSNBC's deeply embedded White House correspondent Jen Psaki was asked about that as well, and she didn't deny any of it. How could she? Listen.
I've seen the report. I have no confirmation or comment on a report about whether or not the president, when he was a private citizen, wrote a college recommendation letter for an individual.
A college recommendation letter, though, from, at the time, a former vice president would be a big deal. So do we know what the president might have gotten in return for doing a favor like that?
Again, I have no confirmation of any recommendation letter the president wrote when he was a private citizen, by the way, not serving in public office. That's even the report.
But he's the president now, and you're his spokesperson.
Correct. And he was not the president at the time of this report.
Funny how she keeps relying on this private citizen. Before he was a private citizen. They're going back a decade into Donald Trump's tax returns and business dealings, trying to nail him after the fact that he was president about what he did before he was president. Ah, the dishonesty is something. Let's move on to number 4 on the top 10 list, shall we? In December 2013, Hunter and his daughter Finnegan Biden traveled to China on Air Force Two with then-President Joe Biden during an official 6-day trip to Asia. Joe Biden met with Chinese President Xi Jinping and other officials, and was also introduced to Lee by his son in the lobby of the hotel where the American delegation was staying. Lee being business partners with Hunter, but the president had no idea that was the case? Okay, sure, I guess go with that. And who could forget this from one of Hunter's texts? You know, the ones from that laptop that was all Russian disinformation? In a 2019 text message to his daughter Naomi, Hunter Biden bitterly wrote, "I hope you all can do what I did and pay for everything for this entire family for 30 years. And then added this, "It's really hard, but don't worry. Unlike Pop, I won't make you give me half your salary." Now, do you wonder? I wonder. Who's Pop? Who's Pop? It must just be a nickname for one of Hunter's drug dealers. I mean, friends or something. And that's only 3 of the Post examples, but some in the media say they still shouldn't cover it. I can't make that up. Here is the Atlantic's reporter Ann Applebaum responding when asked if the media should have covered the Hunter Biden story at all. Here she is.
My problem with Hunter Biden's laptop is I think it's totally irrelevant. I mean, it's not whether it's disinformation or, I mean, I don't think the Hunter Biden's business relationships have anything to do with who should be president of the United States. So I don't find it to be interesting. I mean, that would be my problem with that as a major news story.
She says that with a straight face and an authoritative tone, as if we're supposed to believe that bunk. Sitting there with David Axelrod, the #1 advisor to Barack Obama for 8 years. That's how she answers the question. So now the narrative is that the story just wasn't interesting.